Welcome, everybody. This is our REU Professional Development Seminar, and today we're going to be talking about how to present a poster. And right behind me is a poster, or something that's kind of looks like a poster. And if you notice above me, it says this is not a research poster. Because just like we talked about the giving a research talk, that my talk of how to give a research talk was actually more like a class or a tutorial, but not a research talk. The same thing is now. Now I am not giving you a research poster, but I'm giving some kind of tutorial on how to design research posters. And the reason I'm doing this with this kind of silly poster in the background is it was just a cute idea of mine a few years ago. Where I figured, you know what, since I'm talking about posters, I might as well tell people, might as well demonstrate it with a poster, but this poster is going to violate a lot of the things that you learn because, again, this is not a research talk, so what I'm giving here is not a research poster. I'm not sure how useful this is as opposed to giving a normal talk, but I figure at least it'll break the monotony of just going through slides as always. Now, let's start with what is a poster, and I'll start with a little bit of personal history. When I first encountered the concept of posters in my undergraduate, that was more than 20 years ago, and at the time, the person who was about to present it, I think it was a grad student who was going to a conference or something. And at that time, posters were fairly new in my field, which is linguistics. Posters they're not new. I mean, they weren't new 20 years ago, but in that field, because it was a small field, they hadn't gotten, so to doing a lot of posters. Posters are usually needed when you need to cram a lot of people into a small space in a small amount of time. That's usually when people use a lot of posters. And that was a small field, so posters were fairly new. And the person asked, well, what was a poster? And they said, well, you basically make a poster about your research and stand there and you talk about your poster. So that's the first thing that I need to dispel. You never talk about your poster. You talk about your research. The poster is there to help you talk about your research, but it's not an object of interest in itself. So that's the first thing. And we're going to talk about it a little bit in more detail on how to use a poster. Then when I was in grad school, I presented my first poster. And it was still about maybe 20 years ago, maybe a little bit more. And I was still in the field of linguistics. Posters were still somewhat new. And what I did was what many people at the time did, which was take my poster, print it on a lot of letter paper sheets, and then post them on a board, one next to each other. And the reason was that, again, posters were fairly new. Our department didn't have a big poster printer. I didn't know how to design such a big poster. Of course, I could have figured it out. It wasn't that difficult. But more importantly, I didn't think anybody would pay for me to print that poster. So it would have been probably $50 to $100. And other people did that as well. You hardly see anybody do this anymore. So today, people actually, the expectation is that somebody will pay for you to print your poster. And if you don't find anybody to pay for printing your poster, the expectation is that you will pay for it yourself. Because if you come with a small number of, with a lot of little sheets and tack them one next to the other, this does happen sometimes, then everybody will look at you weird. The standards have risen by a lot in the past 20 years. So this is just a little bit of personal introduction that when you make posters, you're actually expected to come up with something that is graphically appealing, that you need to carry in a long poster tube, unfortunately, if it's a physical poster. And that's just what a poster is. And the idea is, again, that you're not talking about the poster. The poster is not an object. Rather, the poster is something that helps you talk about your research. So let's take a look at the poster behind me. Can everybody see it? I see one person nodding. Yeah, I see a few, another thumbs up, a few more thumbs up. Okay, so when you first come and walk and see a poster, something grabs your eyes. It usually should be the key there. So what do you think is the key message in this poster? The one that's right behind me.
It's a visual medium.
It's a visual medium, exactly. And you know that because it is in this big star in the middle. So poster is a visual medium. And this is the first thing you need to remember about posters. When somebody comes to your poster, they absorb it with their eyes. They look at it. So you need to create something. So just like we said that when you give a talk, you need to give people landmarks. It goes by pausing, intonation, stressing some things that are more important, but kind of just letting people know where they are in the talk. Same thing goes for a poster, except here you convey all this information visually. So if you're able to put something in a big star in the middle, then that'll kind of draw their attention. Okay, oh yeah, all right. So a poster is something that is visual, and that's something that I need to, so this is my way of conveying this idea to you. And so that's the first thing I want you to know about posters. Whenever you think about them, and I touched on it a little bit when we talked about the design of visual aids for your talk, because your talks also have some visual aids. Think about it, how people process them visually. Somebody comes to a poster, and the first thing they do is look. Now, just like a research talk, a poster should have one main idea. So I didn't say why, I didn't put here why give a poster, but the reason to give a poster is the same as the reason for, the reason for giving a research poster is the same as the reason for giving a research talk, which is you want to tell people about your research and get them interested, get them to understand it to some extent, and get them interested in it. Now, actually in a poster, there are, in some ways, it is much better for that purpose than a talk, because you have much more interaction with the people, or with some of the people who come to visit your poster. But just like in a research talk, people need to kind of find a way to tie things together in their minds, the same goes for a poster. They come, they look, they see all this information. You see, I have, I don't know what, 9 blobs, 10 blobs of information. I need to tie it together somehow with a main idea. And so a good poster makes one point. And typically it is a research result, especially if it's a poster about a small research project, then say, okay, here is my result. And then all the detail around it. Now, we need to, you got to be careful here, because when I say around it, I'm talking about around it in the conceptual sense, not necessarily in the physical sense. So the key result does not have to be smack in the middle of the poster. It can be in, there are many ways. Typically, you put the result kind of towards the end or something, but it needs to be highlighted. And actually, it should be highlighted in more than one place. Or the key idea, I shouldn't say the result, the key idea should be highlighted in more than one place. It should be highlighted in the title. It should be highlighted in the thing that people are drawn to first. And it should be highlighted in whatever people are drawn to, people remember and take at the end. Okay, so, so that's about the general overall organization of the poster. And now, a little bit about how you use a poster. So this is what I have up here. The zoom is kind of funny because it makes my hand go. But up in this block above me, can everybody read what this block says? I actually can't read it from here. I'm just gonna, but I remember what it says. It says that there are 3 uses for a poster. And you gotta remember, you gotta keep all of these in mind, or the first 2 actually. The one is standalone, and the other is a conversational aid. The third, art piece, is also important, but is a lower importance. And the reason you have these 2 modes of interaction is because of the way a poster session works. And again, I'm talking about a physical poster session in a physical space. But this kind of physical poster session is, again, it's something that hopefully post-COVID we will all be presenting at. And if we're talking about virtual poster sessions, then it still is important. We don't know exactly how we're going to do the posters, but you're still going to get the same thing, which is sometimes people go and see the poster without you, and sometimes people go and see the poster with you. And this is the difference between having it standalone and as a conversational aid. So if you, and there are several reasons why people will see the poster without you. For one thing, the poster may be up for more than just the poster session. So if let's say the poster session is between 4 and 6 in the evening, they may say, okay, you can hang it at lunchtime, if they have the space. And then people will walk around and they will see your poster even before the poster session or after the poster session. Another reason, even during the poster session, you may take a little break because sometimes poster sessions are given at the same time as the snacks and you're really hungry and you just have to go and get something to eat. Or you need to go take a little body break. Or you want to go and see a few other posters. I mean, maybe it's a long poster session. There's a little bit of lull that nobody's coming to visit your poster and there's something you're really interesting to, so you're gonna walk over and see that, and at the same time somebody else is coming to your poster. And yet another reason why you might not be there, maybe you are physically next to the poster, but you're engaged with somebody in conversation. Okay, so I'm explaining my research to somebody who's standing next to my poster. Somebody else comes, I can't just go and start talking to them. So they are going to need to look at the poster while I'm not there. Even though I'm physically next to them, I'm not available for conversation. And finally, even if I am available for conversation, sometimes people don't want to engage in conversation immediately. What happens to me when I walk around a poster session, I first stand a little bit far away and take a look, and I look at the poster and I decide, do I even want to engage with this poster? And if I do, then I walk and try and talk to the person, if they're there. But sometimes you take a look at a poster, it's like, I've had enough of this. It's kind of like an abstract. Like I said, the abstract tells you, do I even want to go to the talk? With the poster, looking at the poster from a distance kind of helps you know, do I want to engage further? Do I want to go and look at and actually try to understand the charts? Or talk to the person. So these are all reasons why somebody might want to engage with your poster on a standalone basis. Just engage with you, and look at the poster, consume it. I'm not saying read because, as we mentioned last week, there's usually the paper where you mostly sit and read, and a poster which you mostly see and consume visually. Apologies for the helicopter that's above me. I hope you can hear me over that. And so a poster is something that you see, but there are many reasons why somebody would like to look and engage with it without me. So that's a standalone, and definitely has to be designed for that purpose. But it is also there to help me talk. And again, help me talk about my research, not about the poster. And that's why I said it's a conversational aid. So there are many reasons why I might want something visual to help me talk to you about the research. Or even now when I'm talking to you about how to do a poster, there are many reasons why I want something visual. So first of all, so that you're not too bored looking at my face all the time. But I want you to have something to look at right behind me so that you don't go and spend time on your phones or whatever, or walk away. Sometimes you do want a person to walk away, but I want you guys to stay here. And it also helps you, as I said, when we talked about visuals for a talk, some information is much easier to show visually. So if I want to talk to you about a picture like Washington crossing the Delaware, then it's nice to have the picture right there so it can help me explain things about it. If I want to show an interaction plot, like what I have here, sorry, my hand is not really working today, then I can show you the plot and talk about it. Again, I'm not really talking about the plot, I'm talking about the data in the plot, but you get the point. The point is that sometimes you want to show there's a formula I need to explain to you. It's easy to see if the formula is right there. It can also, again, help remind me of things. Another example is an example that I need to read. So let's say, I'm in the field of dialogue. Sometimes you put an example dialogue that you want to talk about. I'm not going to remember the dialogue again and again. And I'm sitting there and I want to say, oh yeah, here's what they said here and what they said here, and or just give an example of an interaction. I'm not going to remember it to reproduce it each time. So again, having this aid to help me work through that with the person is helpful. But really, all of these things are things to help my conversation. So what I'm not doing is walking somebody through my poster, saying, oh, look, so let me tell you first about the introduction, and I'm going to tell you how I did this, and what methods I used, and so who the participants were, and here I'm walking through an experiment, right? And then what the results were, and what I understand from the results, and just going, no. You're not talking about the poster. I'm having a conversation about my research, and in order to have this conversation about my research, I am using this poster when there are things that I need to demonstrate visually, okay? And just as I said here, just as you see me doing right now, I'm not walking you through this poster, I'm talking to you and occasionally pointing to things on the poster. So that's the way to interact with the person, because what you're having is a conversation. And the conversation may be with one person, if one person comes to your poster. It may be with a group. It may be actually with a group whose members are changing, because they can come, a person, you start talking to a person, another person comes, they join the conversation. Then a third person comes, then one of the people leaves. And so this is a whole, but this whole time you're having a conversation with people and you're using the poster as an aid. The third use that I suggested here is an art piece. Why is it important to have it as an art piece? Well, first of all, because it's nice, it's pretty. We hopefully will have enough time today to show you a few art pieces like that. But another thing is that, if you have a physical poster, you may actually want to hang it outside your office, in your dorm room. Actually, the dorm room is probably not the best place, because I don't know if people are the people who will see it are the people who want to look at your research. But it needs to look nice. One of the things that I used to do when I actually would give this introduction to interns while we're physically in the building is go on a tour. I'm gonna do a little virtual tour for you guys. But go through it after talking about how to do a poster in general. We would just take a little tour, walk around the building, see where people put posters of their past research, and critique them. See what's good about this, what could be improved. What do you think about the way people design their posters? So we are not able to do this now. What I'm going to take you is through is a little tour of posters that I will present on the screen. Okay. So next thing, so we talked about how you use a poster, and the next two things are how do you design a poster and how do you deliver a poster. So if you see, if I'm going to move a little bit backwards, you see I'm standing here right between design and delivery. So I'm going to hide delivery because I'm going to talk about design. How to design a poster? That's, I'm just going to give you a few general ideas. You can find more information online, and everybody ends up doing what they like. But just a few ideas of what I think is important. Again, I apologize for the sirens in the background. I'm in a somewhat noisy environment here. Again, I hope the mic is not picking it up too strongly. So the one thing, first of all, is maximize the space. What I mean is, if they tell you that you have 6 by 4 foot place to hang your poster on, design it to be 6 feet by 4 feet. Don't make it smaller. Why? Because you have room, and people, you need to give your best presentation that you can. Okay? If you make it smaller, then you will either have to cut out material or just make material more difficult to read. It's important to have things be readable from a distance, because if I'm standing and there's 3 people in front of me and somebody wants to come and they're not sure if they want to join the group or not, they should still be able to stand maybe 2-3 meters away and look and see something and understand something from the poster. Maybe not the fine details of this chart here over my left shoulder, but they should be able to understand, to see a little bit, to see something. So, so that's the idea behind maximizing space. Also, sometimes, you've designed a poster and it's in portrait orientation because people told you you're going to have a portrait-oriented space. And then you go present the same work somewhere else. And people, but this time they tell you you have a landscape size canvas to work on. Well, you're obviously not going to take your poster and rotate it sideways because it'll be very difficult for people to read. Also, you're not going to shrink your poster. Well, you could, but that's not a good idea, because that means that there's going to be a lot of wasted space. What you really need to do is redesign your poster. And I will show you an example of a redesigned poster because I had to do this. So the one thing, so that was the first thing, is maximize space. Second, minimize text. Your poster will have text on it. When I said the poster is a visual medium, as you can see in the star right above my right hand, no, it's my right hand shoulder. I'm sorry, I'm seeing everything in mirror image. That's why I'm confused, but this is my right hand. When I said everything is visual, I said some things are very easy to grasp visually. Text also is something that people can consume visually if it's not something that that requires them to read and read and read and read and read. So when I say minimize text, I mean, yeah, use text, but use text that people can consume visually. And if you have something that's a little bit longer, make it into bullets. Make it into little pieces that people can understand and, sorry about that, that people can understand and see. Use structure. I'll talk about this a little bit more when we actually see the post, when we go on our tour. But when I say use structure, I mean, what I mean is not just, obviously, you have a lot of information on your poster. You need to somehow structure it, but try and have the structure give you some meaning, okay? If you look at this poster that I have here, you can see that you can kind of see from the structure that there's something that it's right now, it's hidden behind my head. There's this kind of the central idea. Then there's these two parallel things. They're sitting right behind my two palms now. They are the same color, same structure. You can see that these are kind of parallel to each other. There's something up there, and there's something over there. Okay, so something up to my right and something far to my left. And these are maybe a little bit different. And I also have these pictures. These pictures are actually just fillers. I didn't have a whole lot more to add, and I figured, well, try to make it nice. Another question about structure, which I didn't put in here, is, again, this is as it said, this is not a research poster, really, and I'm also not using it the way people normally use a poster. But if you do have a poster, and you need to decide, and there's some kind of progression of things. Do you want it to progress in rows, row, 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 or do you want it to more progress in columns? Let's take a little vote. How many people vote for rows? And how many people vote for columns? A few people voting for columns. Okay, your decision is correct. Can anybody care to explain why? It was a very, yeah, go ahead.
Maybe because then your eyes don't need to travel for as long a period of time in one direction.
Because your eyes don't need to travel for a long period of time in one direction. I think if I understand what you're talking about, what you're saying, it's kind of like when you have a text where, you know, it's reading the text like this is very difficult. Then going back to the beginning. Is this what you're talking about?
Yeah.
So in that sense, you're absolutely right. You should not have text that runs over a very, very long period of time, but you could still break your boxes, like, you know, something here and then here and then here and then here, a few small boxes, and then a few more boxes down, 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 down. Next, why not arrange it in rows like that? Any idea? Again, it is correct.
I'm not sure.
So you're right about the idea of not traveling, but it's not so much, but it's not only your eyes, but it's your physical bodies. So, right, so think about it. You have a poster that's, I don't know, 1-2 meters wide, have several people looking at it at the same time, okay? If you need to go from right to left, or sorry, from left to right, and then I told you my mirror image directions are confused. And then again, and then go down, and from left to right. Then your body keeps moving.
Right.
You keep walking, and then you walk back, and you walk over, which itself is, which itself is not that terrible. But what if there's two people there? Then I'm reading, and somebody else is reading, and we're walking, and then we bump into each other as one of us goes, and then we bump into each other again. So, whereas if it's all in columns, then each of us is standing, and then we move a few times. So it's actually a very, very physical, and there's a very physical reason. The reason you're arranging your main arrangements is in columns as opposed to rows is because you don't want people to bump into each other as they engage with a poster. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so this was, so that's just a little thing about how to arrange. But again, when I say use structure, I mean not only use what I mean is not only give it a nice structure to look at, but also try to have the structure have some meaning. And we'll see some example of this later on. Use color, again, and again, when I say use color, I mean have the color have some meaning. We have two things with the same color here, things with a different color, so it kind of gives you some indication. I'm also trying here to have the color match obviously the color of the pictures of the paintings is their original colors. Other things are, the color of the NSF logo is the color of the NSF logo because that's just the way it is. Everything else, though, is trying to join. I'm trying to have a theme here, which is USC colors. Not crucial, but it's nice. It makes it more visually appealing. It helps the art piece aspects of your poster. And finally, the final thing about design is clear graphics. And when I say clear graphics, I mean stuff like the graphics here on my left. So, okay, I need another show of hands here. Can people see somewhat clearly the difference between the two plots? Or is it too small? I see a check here, a check mark here. I mean, one thumbs up. Is anybody having difficulty seeing this? Would anybody want me to actually show this bigger? Okay, nobody wants to show it bigger, so I'll keep what we have there. We have two plots here, which actually show exactly the same data. The difference is, and the data, there are exactly 6 data points. It's an interaction, okay? So we have one line that, we have 2 conditions, one on the left, one on the right, 3 things that are being tested. I mean, it's actually 2 by 2 conditions, but 3 things that are being tested. The lines and the slopes show the difference, and we saw that one line has a bigger slope than the other 2 lines. So that's what we call an interaction, and it's useful to show it in a graphic. Which of these graphics is better? How many people say the top graphic is better? It's exactly the same data. How many people say the bottom graphic is better? Okay, so people agree that the bottom graphic is better. And the difference is that the top, so I can tell you some of the reasons. One is that the labeling, right? The top graphic has, every line has a different color and different shapes on the endpoints. Like one has circles, one has triangles, one is something else I can't even see from this distance. And then there is a little legend on the side, which tells you that the red line is desert, and the green line is lunar, and the blue line is art. Whereas in the bottom, we do have difference in colors and difference in the line and difference in the endpoints. But the label actually sits right on top of the line. So it makes it easier to know which line goes with which. The other thing is the axes have better labels. So for example, you have at the bottom, the bottom axis, in the bottom panel, it says before interaction, after interaction. That's kind of easier to understand the conditions. The bigger ones, the top one has time relative to the interaction, before, after. That's a little bit more difficult to understand. Now, the reason is simple. Why the bottom is better. The bottom is better because I actually designed it, whereas the top one comes out automatically from a package called R. It's a statistical analysis package. And there is a good reason why statistical analysis packages, it's difficult for them to get this very good, to get this kind of high quality graphics. For one thing, positioning the labels on top of lines so that they are clear, it's clear what line they go to, and also look nicely, is not easy to do algorithmically. I put these 3 labels, lunar, what is it? Art, desert, and lunar. I put them there manually. So I can use my aesthetic judgment to put it in a place where they don't interfere with each other. Doing it algorithmically for just any data that comes out is difficult. The same thing is what we have here on the bottom axis is we have variable, that's a time relevant to the interaction, and 2 levels. That's how you analyze it. So if you're talking about formal statistical analysis, you analyze it as a variable with 2 levels. So it's fairly easy to put the name of the variable and the name of the 2 levels for the statistical analysis package. Thinking that, oh, actually, you know, I can explain it clearer if I don't give the name of the value. So time relative to the interaction before, time relative to the interaction after, I can just make it much clearer without even naming the variable by saying before interaction, after interaction. That's something that to have a statistical package automatically analyze the names of the variables and the name of the levels and figuring out a concise way to put them that's clear to humans is too much. It's too difficult. Language processing is not there yet. So the answer is, so obviously when you're doing analyses and you're looking at graphs for your own understanding, of course you use package graphics because they're done automatically. You need to think of changing things, you put different data in, etc. It's very useful. For the final product, whether it's on a, by the way, final product, whether it's here on a poster or on a slide in a talk or in a paper, if you can actually manage to design the graphics yourself in a way that's better than the package graphics, it's worth the effort. So that's what I mean by clear graphics. That's the bottom thing on my, that would be my left-hand panel. It's behind my right hand, which would mean it's the left-hand panel. Behind my right shoulder. Okay. So we're done with how to design the poster, and now how to deliver the poster. Some of these are already touched upon. So let me just talk. So first of all, you need to prepare a few spiels, because people are going to come and say, so what is your poster about? Notice that that's not what they're meaning. What they want to ask is, what is your research about? But and some of them will ask what's your research about, but some of them will ask, what is your poster about? And you're going to answer with you're not going to call them out on this, but you're going to give an answer about your research. And you need to, so it's good to already prepare something that takes about 30 seconds to explain. And again, just like I said in the talk, everything including results and conclusions in 30 seconds. You can call it the elevator pitch. And then you also need a longer version. And whether you use a shorter or longer version, and the reason you need to prepare them ahead of time, because otherwise you'll get flustered. So these are very short. I forget which politician it was who was asked, how long is it going to take you to make a 10-minute address? So I can have it done in a day. How about a 2-minute address? Oh, that'll take me, 10-minute address I can prepare in 2 hours. A 2-minute address, it'll take me a day to prepare. How about an hour? Just, I can give you this, I can talk about it right now, right away, without any preparation. So actually shorter spiels take more preparation. So because you want to be quick and concise and finish quickly, you need to prepare both a 30-second and a 2-minute ahead of time. And then just let the visitor lead. They come, try and judge. Do they want the 30-minute? You can even ask them, do you want a 30-second or do you want the 2-minute version? And then maybe they'll say one thing, they'll say the other thing. They'll say, oh, I just want to read it for now, on my own. Maybe they'll start asking questions right away. This can also happen. Let them go. Let them lead. What you're having here is, you're not presenting, you're having conversation. And you want to give them what's interesting to them, what they want. Be prepared that there's going to be multiple visitors. somebody's going to come, you're in the middle of a conversation with somebody else comes and asks a question. Okay, now it's a bit of a dance here, right? You can answer it quickly, say, oh, I'm in the middle here. Don't want to walk toward them, or I mean, you need to judge, but you need to try to have a conversation that's inclusive of everybody that wants to be with you, even though some of them have heard, you know, if you just gave a 2-minute explanation of a particular formula to one visitor and another person comes and asks about it, maybe give them only a 10-second version and then continue the discussion, but find a way to engage multiple people at the same time. And the final thing we're going to say, look for cues, is don't forget to allow people to leave. Because sometimes people will want to, it's a very frustrating experience when when I'm standing at a poster, I got what I want out of it. I'm satisfied, I'm happy. And the person just keeps talking and talking and talking and explaining and explaining. And it's like, okay, enough. But you know, there's kind of this social, it's rude to just leave in the middle of one of those talk where they're talking. So I've spent times at posters where I really was not engaged and already done, and the person just wouldn't. So keep an eye, try and see who the person is, what they want, what they're interested in, try and judge, and leave them ways to graciously say, thank you, I'm done. All right. So this is what I had about this is a general advice on how to design, how to present your posters. I'm now going to go on a very quick tour of a few posters we had, and I will hopefully leave some time for questions. So let me start by a very classic design. Not a good design, but a very classic design. If I can figure out how to share my screen. Can people see this design? Sorry, can people see this? I see some, yeah. So this is what I call the boxy design. And what do people think about it?
It has a lot of text.
A lot of text, indeed. So this is a design where you have, basically you take your research paper, cut it into boxes, and put them on for people to read. Is it helpful as a standalone? Well, I mean, people can stand and look at it, but it's really hard to consume it. Does it help as a conversation aid? Maybe. I mean, I can definitely point out to the tables here. I can point out to some of the examples. I can point out to the little structure that I have at the bottom right. But overall, it's a very common design where people, but personally, I think it's not the greatest because it doesn't really make use of the visual possibilities that a poster affords. Let me try another design, kind of similar. So this is also a boxy design. It's this is another boxy design, except it's a little bit cleaner. Can people see? And it has it's a little bit cleaner, so it's easier to see what things are. But it's basically still using the same sections. If you want to know what's going on here, you need to kind of read from the beginning at the top left down to the right. Any comments or thoughts so far?
This one also has a lot of text. It's kind of hard to follow. I think maybe if the titles of the columns were more prominent, it would be clearer.
Okay, this one has a lot of text. It does have text, that's correct. The titles, text are fairly, I don't know, what do you mean by clear? You mean, what do you mean by if the titles were clear? I think that the titles are fairly, they're 1 word, 2 words, right?
I mean, visually, like each section kind of, it's not immediately evident where each section ends and the next one begins.
It's not immediately evident with sections, right? That's correct. They're not complete, not exact sections. Yeah, some of the examples are a little bit clear. You can see there's an example in green and an example in orange. These are dialogue examples. It's not really clear what they mean. So this is really more, this is much more useful as a conversation aid if I go and use these while talking to you than as a standalone poster. Now, let's look at the next one, if I can find it. I'm going to go so here, sorry, can you see the new one? The one that says experiment structure. So this is an example of what I meant by using, when I said use structure. This is a somewhat complicated experiment. So first of all, you can see this is an experiment description, description. How can you tell? Well, if you look at the top, it's, you see method, results, discussion. So what we have here is you have, I'm using the 2-dimensional structure of the paper in order to convey something about the contents. So this is what I mean by using structure. And then the method has, so if I want to, at one level, I'm just going to look at the top row and I see, oh, it's an experiment because it has methods, result, discussion. Okay. And then I can look at a little bit more detail. I can see that under method, actually I see training, testing, evaluation. That's part of the method, but it also, it shows you, okay, this is some kind of probably a machine learning experiment, right? Because that's what we do training, testing, evaluation for. Then there's this very complicated diagram, which nobody was able to understand, but oh well. So this is an example of using structure, using the structure of the paper or structure of the poster in order to convey information. Now, another version of exactly the same content is here. You can see that this is exactly the same content as before. What has changed? The orientation, right? Previously it was in landscape format. Now I moved it to portrait format. You see that it's not as clean. The structure, I see method, results, and discussion are now not one next to each other, but you know, you work with the canvas that you have. I can have, so I'm not going to go over too many examples because I want to leave some for question. I can, here's I'll just if you do a few more examples. Oh, by the way, actually, no, never mind. I'm just going to keep going on our tour. This is an example of a poster. This is actually a poster I did with an REU student that I had, Bethany Lycan. She was an REU student. And here, this is a good example for how to compare two things. So we had two conditions, one on the left, one on the right. And then we just see from top to bottom a comparison. Okay, this goes against what I told you before, which is try to arrange things in columns, not in rows. Right, each comparison here is on rows, but this is a place where, first of all, it's a narrow poster, so people are not going to be moving that much to the right and to the left. And this is an example where the structure of explaining, the structure of where having the canvas reflect the structure of the idea is more important than the general principle of people not bumping right and left. I have a few other examples of these kinds of long posters, but I'm not going to go through all of them. I'll have, sorry. The next poster is what I call a variety, some kind of a variety poster. You see that there's a lot of information on this poster. And this is a poster, it's describing a corpus. So it's from LREC, Language Resources and Evaluation Conference. And it shows, it just gives you a lot of information about a corpus. So you can look, you can see on the top left is an introduction of what the corpus is and what it includes. Then you have an example task. You have information about the wizard, about the interface. At the bottom, you see some dialogue examples. You see some pictures. In the middle, you see a few references, which is studies that the corpus has been used for. So this is really, this is the kind of research that's actually kind of difficult to show because, you know, the result of, when the result is a corpus, it's a huge body of text with annotations. Well, how do you present the result? This is one way. It's a variety, basically showing I have a corpus and there's a lot of information you can choose, and it's kind of pick and choose. What do you want to talk about? I don't think there was anybody that actually went through the entire thing on the corpus, right? Typically somebody came, I talked a little bit, and then we had a conversation about what was interesting to them. Never walk, and it's okay sometimes to give a big poster like that, like this. You never walk anybody through this kind of poster. That would just be tedious. And the final example I want to show you let me just find it. The final example I want to show you is what I mean as an art piece. So if I said the previous poster was involved, then this is crazily involved. Okay, we have we have a big timeline somewhere in the center. We have a diagram, a big flow diagram that includes a lot of smaller diagrams in the middle, and that's kind of aligned with the timeline. We have some photos on the top, which are also aligned with the timeline, and then we have a lot of information at the bottom. This is way, way, way too involved. This is 8 feet wide. So this poster, actually I was given 8 feet by 4 feet. Unfortunately, our printer was only 3.5 feet wide, so I made it, so I violated the maximized space by having only 8 feet by 3.5 feet. And this is actually a poster that accompanied a demo. So it was mostly used for, not me talking about the poster, or sorry, not me talking with the aid of the poster, but I was to the side giving a live demo. So the poster is really for people who are either not interested in the demo, or they're waiting for their turn to interact with the demo, because the demo is a one-on-one conversation. And maybe if you see me demoing the system to somebody, while you're waiting, you're looking. So it gives you something to look at. It gives you a lot to think about. And if I need to explain a little point while I'm talking, while I'm giving the demo and talking about, I want to show something, then I can go over to the poster and use it as a conversational aid. Oh yeah, you want to know how this works? Here, this little diagram, this little part of the diagram is how this component works. But again, this is not the kind of poster that you use to walk people through. Rather, it's a kind of poster that you use for a different purpose. Okay, it is 12:30 now, and I think I've talked enough. Anybody have any things they want to say? Questions, comments?
Oh,
Oh,
go ahead.
okay, thank you. So would we, when we're giving our presentation, would it be wise to prepare the talk separately from the poster? So you're giving a talk and then throughout the talk, you're pointing at the poster if you need to?
Okay, so when you're giving your presentation, that's a very good question because we don't know what format your presentation is going to be like.
Right.
So when you're, it's going to be, we don't even know if it's going to be a poster, and if it's a poster, how it's going to work. As I said, posters in the virtual space work differently than in the physical space. And we don't have a lot of information about, we don't have a lot of experience about posters in the virtual space. And if it's going to be in virtual reality, as the talk is now, then we have even less information on how it's going to work. So I would say you need to prepare. So the response I'm giving is not specific to the situation, simply because we don't yet know what the situation is.
Right.
But what you need to do is you need to have, but the general answer is you have to prepare your materials relative to for the medium that you're presenting them, okay? So if you're presenting something that's gonna be visual, like a poster, where people are gonna come and take a look and see, then you need to prepare it like you would for a standalone poster. And when you're preparing your own talk, again, I don't know, are we gonna give you 5 minutes? Are we gonna give you 1 minute or something? Then you're gonna prepare it the way that you would prepare for such a thing. You know, if you're given 1 minute, then probably you're not going to be able to, that does not make sense to switch visuals. So you're going to probably want to have like one piece of visuals that you're going to use throughout that whole 1 minute. If you're given 2 minutes, then maybe, you know what, maybe you will prepare 2 or 3 visuals to go with it. If you're for 30 seconds, typically you're not going to rely on any visuals at all. 30 seconds, it's really think, how am I going to convey the information I want in 30 seconds? Just talking to somebody. Forget about the visuals.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Did I kind of answer the question? And the same goes, by the way, for a physical poster. If you have a poster, then again, you prepare the poster for the 2 uses that you had, that you have, which is as a standalone and as a conversational aid. But when you prepare these little spiels, then you can think, well, on the 30-second spiel, I'm probably not going to want to point to the poster much, if at all. In the 2-minute spiel, maybe I can actually incorporate some of the graphic information on the poster as I'm talking, if it's going to help me.
Okay, thank you.
Any other thoughts or questions?
I was just going to ask, what software do people typically prefer for making posters?
What software do people typically prefer? The way you phrased it, people typically use PowerPoint. Is it a good choice? Not really.
Okay.
But that's what people typically use. So the nice thing about PowerPoint is that it's fairly easy to put things on different places on a canvas. and most people have it on their computers. If they don't have PowerPoint, then some have something else, like a LibreOffice or Keynote if they are Mac users, or people typically have something. People typically have access to some presentation software. And presentation software makes it fairly easy to place things on a canvas. It doesn't usually do a very good job with the quality of the stuff that you put there. So if you want to put effort into creating a higher quality poster, then you probably want to have tools that give you more control over what you can place where, exactly how, and all that. So something like not a presentation software, but things like a design software. Like I'm trying to think, you have like InDesign and stuff like that, is probably a better, or a desktop publishing, not a word processor, but a desktop publishing software might be useful. I use LaTeX. So the thing behind me is done with LaTeX. It is a pain. I do not recommend it to anyone unless you are already a LaTeX guru. So since I am fairly skilled at using it, it's not that hard for me to do these things. But if you're not, if you're just learning LaTeX because you think it's going to be, it's going to give you better quality than PowerPoint, the learning curve that it's going to take you days or weeks to figure out how to do all these cool stuff that you can do that with PowerPoint. You can just drag and place things. So it is a question. So my guess is that for most people, something like PowerPoint is what they consider a reasonable balance between the quality, which is not that great, and the ease of producing something quickly, which is super easy. If you've done graphic design in the past, obviously you can think of posters, things that people in ad companies do. They don't use PowerPoint. Well, I hope they don't. They have better tools. So if you have access to these tools, and if you know how to use them, or are willing to put the time into learning how to use them, and willing to put the time into designing your poster, I've just spent an hour telling you guys that, yes, it is worth putting your time into design. So if you're willing to put the time into design and into learning the tools, then by all means, go beyond PowerPoint and do something better. But that's a question of how much time is it worth for you. Did I answer the question?
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay. Other thoughts? All right, so thank you very much, and I'll see you later.